Hello, and welcome back to another video. So on Sunday, episode 2 of House of the Dragon premiered. So I thought I could go through the episode synopsis and then go through some discussion threads around the episode. So with that, sit back, relax, and let's get started. So like I mentioned, I am going to start just by going through the episode synopsis and then we'll get into the discussion thread. Throughout the Rogue Prince, the grief-stricken king does everything in his power to avoid direct conflict with his would-be enemies. But by the end of the episode, his efforts prove to be in vain. His undoing comes from a decision that those not schooled in the political game of monarchies may consider inconsequential: his choice of a wife. The Rogue Prince takes place about 6 months after the death of the Queen and Prince. Pressure on the capital of Westeros continues to rise, and there's no sign of calm in the horizon. Things have taken a turn for the worse since King Viserys decided to banish his brother to the Vale following reports that Daemon had celebrated the baby prince's death in one of the many brothels of King's Landing. Instead of doing as he is told, however, Daemon set his course to Dragonstone, the very seat of House Targaryen, and fortifies it with his men from the City Watch. Meanwhile, in the Stepstones, the Free City's militia, led by Prince Drahar the Crab Feeder, has taken a fleet of Lord Corlys's ships and fed his men to, well, the crabs. Nerves at the small council are on edge. Lord Corlys wants to take down the crab feeder by force and finds some unexpected support in Princess Rhaenyra, and Lord Otto insists that the king take immediate action against his brother. Viserys, however, believes he can talk it all out, and perhaps for a split second he might have been right. Unfortunately, the key to the future of House Targaryen lies not in the battlefield nor in council meetings, but at the altar. With the Queen dead, the lords of King's Landing are pressuring Viserys to take a new wife and finally father a son. Sure, the king may have already named an heir, but, as Princess Rhaenys reminds her young cousin Rhaenyra, the lords would sooner let the realm burn to the ground than allow a woman to sit on the Iron Throne. The matter of Viserys' succession becomes even more pressing when we take into account the king's declining health. The wound he had on his back in episode 1 has now spread to his hand, and the Meisters still don't know how to cure whatever is affecting His Majesty. It's a new season of The Bachelor, King's Landing edition. King Viserys has to choose a bride to take home his rose. trying to make their way to the Iron Throne indirectly, Lord Corlys and Princess Rhaenys offer the king the hand of their daughter, Lady Lena, of only 12 years of age. Viserys decides to give his rose to someone else, and that someone is none other than Lady Alicent Hightower, much to Lord Otto's rejoice and Princess Rhaenyra's surprise. Poor Alicent does seem to be a sweet and kind young woman. Her concern about Rhaenyra's well-being and her effort to help the king reconnect with his daughter are nothing if not sincere. Even when she has King Viserys's broken stone dragon fixed for him, a very on-the-nose moment of twisted foreshadowing, it doesn't look like she has any ulterior motives. Alas, Lord Otto has his own plans for his daughter and is using her as a means to gain more power for House Hightower. Enraged by the king's choice of bride, Lord Corlys ends the episode far from the small council, opening his castle of Driftmark to Prince Daemon. His goal is to persuade the scorned heir to take military action against the crab feeder on the stepstones, virtually declaring war against King Viserys. Considering how confrontational the prince has been, it's quite possible that he will take the opportunity. After all, Daemon's tantrum doesn't end with taking of Dragonstone. The episode's rogue prince also sends word to his brother that he shall take a second wife, as was traditional in old Valyria. His choice is a former prostitute by the name of Mysaria, who doesn't seem to be all that on board with her lover's shenanigans as well. More than that, he has falsely claimed that his lady-to-be is with child and stolen a dragon's egg from King's Landing to place on his baby's crib, as per the customs of House Targaryen. To add insult to injury, Daemon doesn't take just any old egg. He handpicks the one that had been chosen to lay beside the prince. Once again, it is the mockery of his dead son's memory that finally makes King Viserys lose his temper. If in the episode's initial scenes the king was shown trying to avoid war at all costs, now he wants nothing more than to personally fly to Dragonstone and bash his brother's head in. Sensing danger to his majesty, Lord Otto convinces him to stay put and takes a small force led by Sir Criston Cole, the recently appointed head of the Kingsguard, to have a chat with Prince Daemon. A war almost breaks out when the prince refuses to give the dragon egg back to Lord Otto. Swords are drawn, and Daemon's dragon flies to the aid of its master. It screeches enough to send chills through anyone's spine. Thankfully, Princess Rhaenyra arrives on her own dragon just in time to stop her uncle's and her father's forces from having a go at each other. As was shown in last week's The Heirs of the Dragon, Prince Daemon has a soft spot for his niece. He gives her a necklace of Valyrian steel, and the two seem to have an almost complicit relationship, with Rhaenyra laughing upon finding her uncle sitting on the Iron Throne. Thus, when the princess tells him that he would have to kill her in order to become king, Daemon concedes and gives up the egg. Rhaenyra takes off to Dragonstone without her father's consent in a scene that parallels her suggestion at the small council to send dragon riders to deal with the crab feeder and his men. Both moments say a lot about her personality, telling us of her nearly rogue-like independence and of her typical Targaryen over-reliance on dragons. So far, her heat-of-the-moment plans have been working well enough to avoid bloodshed, but with Lord Corlys and Prince Daemon joining forces, an impending marriage between her father and Lady Alicent, and a final shot that gives viewers a good look at the crab feeder's face, it's hard to say how long the princess's success will last. Okay, so now we will move into the episode discussion. The scene on the bridge leading into Dragonstone was incredible. I thought Rhaenyra's entrance by riding Syrinx just beneath the clouds was awesome. It reminded me of when Dany showed up unexpectedly on her dragon. I don't remember the episode in Game of Thrones, but there was one really awesome scene where she flew in on her dragon. Loved when Daemon pulled up the sibling rule of only I can talk about my brother, nobody else can. I'm liking the nuance of Daemon's character thus far. He's clearly being poised as an antagonist, but he's also been shown to have plenty of redeeming qualities and genuinely valid gripes. He's starting to drift into Jaime territory in terms of the morality spectrum. I think he'll end up being even better than Jaime. He seems to hold family in high regard and respects his niece seemingly just as highly as he holds his ambition. Clever writing, and they're taking into account the tropes written into the previous series to subvert expectations, I think. In one move, the king ruined his relationship with his daughter, ruined her relationship with her best friend, and took the most powerful house and sided it with Daemon. Those shots with the crabs and the crab people were awesome. Some really good cinematography so far. Loved Daemon's big troll moment. Yeah, I'm not actually married or with child at all. Here's your egg back. Seeing Daemon juggle the egg and say, "Welcome to Dragonstone Otto," made me laugh. Daemon really comes off as like a child who wants attention from his older brother. Everything he does is a cry for Viserys' attention. I love including him telling Corlys that he can't talk about Viserys because it's his older brother and he loves him. The part about him reprimanding Corlys really adds layers to his character, and I'm all for it. Daemon is a shady, scheming little sneak with a passion for violence, but he loves his family and defends them wholeheartedly. What an amazing character expertly brought to the screen. It's pretty clear Daemon isn't a threat in the sense that I don't think he would ever try to kill or overthrow the king, and he clearly cares about Rhaenyra as well. It is Otto that they need to be worried about. Can't wait to see more of the Eldritch pirate people. That looks terrifying. What I'm learning is you just never want to be the king at the start of any movie or TV show. Things tend to not go well for whoever is that first king. Viserys making enemies just by making the more moral of the choices he faces at each turn reminds me so much of Rob. The only difference is after the Red Wedding, we, the audience, can see so clearly any one of these sights can end you in Westeros. It's really great writing. When it was Rob, we were all a bit blinded by wanting him to succeed. With Viserys, we know how the world works, and we feel frustration at him instead. Anyway, this episode was great. It's feeling very much like Season 1 of Game of Thrones all over again. The world building, the slow burn of characters and tensions developing. It's so good to have it all back. Alicent is especially interesting to me, even though she hasn't had much room to shine. It's clear the things she does eat away at her, with the clear anxiety disorder indicators, but she seems like someone who will follow their duty to the end and refuse to admit she's done wrong, even to Rhaenyra. Talking about Rhaenyra, she's a badass. I love her already. That scene on Dragonstone gave me goosebumps. I like that the show already has its own unique feel to it. Despite them keeping the intro, it's still very distinct from Game of Thrones. Syrax cutting through the fog was incredible, as was Daemon and Rhaenyra's conversation in High Valyrian. The same can't be said about Myseria's accent though. It was bad. Otto was fantastic in this episode. I loved the smug smirk he gave Corlys when Viserys announced that he would marry Alicent. I felt for Rhaenyra. Viserys completely blindsided everyone when he announced that he'd be marrying Alicent, and then looked confused when Rhaenyra stormed out of the small council chamber as if he didn't have a chance to tell her he'd be doing that. I'm not sure if Rhaenyra felt betrayed by Alicent, disappointed in Viserys, or both. It's going to be interesting to see the consequences of Viserys' decisions unfold, though I'm sure it's going to be hard to watch. Also, the scenes with Crabfeeder were awesome and terrifying. Absolutely loved the imagery of the broken dragon statue. Viserys drops it, of course, symbolizing his utter incompetence will ultimately lead to the destruction of his house. Alicent, in having it repaired, seems, at least to Viserys, to be the mending his reign needs. However, this mending will surely not last, and in a future episode, perhaps the statue will fall apart once again. What was needed was for Viserys to wed Lena and craft a new statue entirely. The symbolism in this show is already off the charts. I cannot believe how clueless the king is. He heard his daughter say, "I understand that you need to remarry," and really ran with it. The stupid, sheepish, optimistic look he gave to Rhaenyra before announcing his marriage to Alicent, like she was going to love that and still be on board. His surprise when she walked out. "You are on another planet, my guy." He's such a warm character, but such an awful king and an out-of-touch dad. Random, assorted thoughts. I like reusing the Game of Thrones theme. This is still very much a Game of Thrones in action. A different era, but still the game and still the same stakes that Cersei pointed out all those years ago in the future. Millie Alcock is the MVP of this episode. Damon continues to be the best overall character in the show thus far. The uncomfortableness of dynastic politics in Westeros are front and center in this episode. It says something that him deciding marrying his daughter's best friend and his right-hand man's daughter is the less creepy thing to our modern eyes. Speaking of Viserys, the poor man is mostly good, but in Westeros, a good man is usually not a good king. Congratulations to Otto Hightower on a successful day of playing Crusader Kings. I can't help but feel like Viserys is half marrying Alicent for Rhaenyra's sake. He says he doesn't want to pass over her as his heir, regardless of his next marriage. Everything the prior scenes showed was that if he married Lena, the children of their union would have a stronger blood claim to the throne. With the wealthiest house and largest fleet in the realm at their back. Combine that with a grandfather who desperately wants his own blood on the throne. To marry Lena was to accept Rhaenyra would be overlooked, or worse, to accept a civil war. Viserys thinks the Hightowers are his allies, and probably naively thinks they'll be content to produce princes and princesses, not kings or queens. It was a stupid move, don't mistake me, but it seems to have purer intentions than him just fancying Alicent. He seems genuinely content to never marry or love again. This is exclusively about heirs, and he seems to have picked the less advantageous option for a reason. Who he marries Rhaenyra off to could validate this too, if he strengthens her claim more through her own marriage. Okay, so I think I am going to wrap it up there, as a lot of these are starting to get a little repetitive. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful night, and I'll see you next time.